following live broadcast is rated ESVPG. Some language may be inappropriate, but we rather like it. Good evening. It's time for another open forum show here at Your Shoulder Voice. So we're going to talk about a few things tonight. Obviously, I'm going to talk about some things that have been coming up, some things we've been dealing with. But one of the big topics I can guarantee you we're going to hit tonight is going to be that Roe v. Wade. That'll be coming up later in the show. Other than that, we'll talk about anything you want to. So just suggest it in the comments. Talk to us live. We'll respond to everything. Other than that, enjoy the show. You guys ready?
Woo!
All right.
Yeah.
Woo. Okay, well, that's more exciting than usual. Let's do it.
Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. Where you go, all there. Together, always together. Together, always together.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ear Shoulder Voice. I am Keith Litfin here. It is our open forum show right now, so we are going to talk about whatever's on your mind, whatever's going on, no matter how deep, no matter how serious, or how lighthearted. We want to talk about it with you. No judgments here. Feel free to talk about anything you want, and you'll be happy you did so. I guarantee it. And, of course, we can't do that. I want to remind you, I'm sorry, I said that all backwards. We can't do that without our panel. But before I bring in our panel, I want to mention that Ear Shoulder Voice is always looking for new panelists. So if you find yourself somebody who's interested and likes talking about random things and likes to use their previous experiences to sometimes help others and help how they get through, feel free to get in contact with us at earshouldervoice.com or through Facebook. We'd love to have you as a regular panelist as well. Don't forget, while you're here, you like, share, subscribe, and follow the Ear Shoulder Voice on all our major things, which is Meta, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We're on all that. This is our open forum, so we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can join the panel by going to earshouldervoice.com. But other than that, let's just bring that panel in, and I'm not even going to go through the whole video. We're going to start with Elena. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am doing good. We missed you, of course. You weren't on our last show. It was weird. We had your significant on there, which was kind of nice.
I was in the chat.
You were in the chat. That was nice. Was it weird being in the chat more?
I mean a little bit, but it was fun. Like I really enjoyed it.
I know when I had Jane host the show that one time, it was weird being in that chat, but it was kind of neat at the same time.
Yeah, it was cool being on like a different side of it. It was really irritating when I wanted to say something and I had to wait for you to bring my comment up.
To get to it sometimes.
Yeah, like so that was irritating.
But you know what's going to
when I'm on the show, I can just talk.
Right. At least you know what's going to come up. It gets confusing sometimes. We got to go backwards from the comments to the things we're previously talking about. But it is our open forum, so I got to say, is there anything interesting that's been on your mind? Obviously, there's the elephant in the room.
Not really. Except for everything that you said we're going to talk about. There were just a bunch of shootings in Grand Rapids, which is really sad and scary.
Oh my gosh.
There were, I think Brandon just told me there were 3 in the past day and a half. Like all downtown in the areas that I'm at all the time.
Well,
so fun.
Yeah. Well, thankfully you're safe. All right,
yes.
That's what counts. You and Brandon. All right, let's bring in our next panelist. Please welcome back Bill, the weatherman. How you doing, Bill?
Hey, what's going on?
So not much. What predictions are you going to give me for the weather? I'm not going to trust him, but I'm just curious.
It's going to rain in Hazel Park any minute now.
It rained briefly here. I think it's stopped now.
It's still raining here now. That's why I got it right. So, it was weird. So she was talking about the shootings up there in Grand Rapids, and I recently found out that last year in Hazel Park, which Keith, you know about Hazel Park because you lived here, there was actually 4 murders in Hazel Park last year.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that a lot? I was like, honestly, you got to remember I lived in Hazel Park back and it wasn't the best area way back when.
You got to, yes, and it wasn't. But I mean, as far as, people being murdered, I mean, there was always fights. There was always, everything like that. But I mean, you had the guy killed his mother that lived on Hughes over by the high school. And then the other ones, the ones that stand out were when the lady cop got killed here in Hazel Park when she answered a call over by United Oak School. But you don't hear about it, and then all of a sudden you find out that just last year there was 4 murders and they were all in the last half of the year.
Oh wow!
Wow!
There's already been a murder this year, so
just to bring up, we did have our mortality show coming up, which was supposed to be Wednesday. We did move it to this Wednesday for personal reasons, and that will still be happening coming up on Wednesday. So let's talk about it. You said people are getting murdered, and it seems to be happening. That's happened more and more lately. I'm seeing it everywhere. I guess there was one, was it Georgia or something, that there was now a new one that was a mass shooting that they said it was a racial.
New York.
Or Buffalo,
New York. The guy went and shot all the people at the store, and it was supposed to be racially motivated. He was a white guy. It was mostly black people in the store.
I maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but it's something to me that it's getting ridiculous that everything has to be racially motivated, but at the same time, people are being that way now, and it's scary. Think about, because you can't even. This is going to sound weird. You can't even shoot up a store without being a racist. It's a weird way to say it, but if you do something, if somebody of color or something is involved, it's suddenly a racism issue. And I think people jump to that conclusion too much. Even though it may be, I think it hurts to jump to that conclusion too much. It creates, I think, more hate and more violence and more protest and more anger to people around you. What about you?
I think that a lot of the reasons why everyone assumes everything is so racially motivated, and I'm not saying it's not, I'm like, I have no idea. But I think the reason so many people assume it, especially now, is because of, like, racism has just been brought up so much within the past 6 years. I'm not getting political.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I get it. You're
like,
right.
within the past, 6 years, we had a president who kind of divided things a lot in a lot of different aspects, in my opinion, at least. So I think that has a lot to do with things.
I think there was definitely more division that happened over the last 6 to probably 8 years, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely including, I think it started up and it just really started rolling about 6 years ago. You're right.
Yeah.
What about you, Bill? What do you think about it?
I haven't shot anyone or killed anyone in a long, long, long time. So
well, it's like riding a bike. You can get back into it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I got people contacting me saying they can't get into your live chat, and I don't understand that. So,
if it's through Facebook, they have to be logged in. I'm not sure how it works through YouTube. But
YouTube, if you search just Ear Shoulder Voice on YouTube and click on the first thing, it'll be the live broadcast, and you can just comment on it like you're commenting on any other YouTube video. Okay. I'm pretty sure you do need to be logged in on YouTube too, as well, though.
Do you? Okay. I think you do. I think you're right. I don't think it allows for anonymous comments through YouTube.
But with YouTube, you can just log in with if you have a Google account, a Gmail account, you can just log in with that.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm not always familiar how. Johnny Races here says, "What's with the old guy?" Well,
Linda pissed off. That's my son.
I know. I figured it was. I figured.
So he's got 4 different profiles, and he does this for different reasons, and I can't explain that on here. He's not illegal or anything. Don't get me wrong, but he uses 4 different profiles. But that is one of his, the asshole.
I figured it was. I figured it was. He just appears. He's we had him on one day, and he kind of just follows us, Johnny. We can't seem to get rid of him. Linda's here. She says she's through Facebook. It was super simple to get through. We're glad to hear that. That it was. I'm not sure how it works with some of these because I'm always doing them. I'm not commenting on them.
I told her how to do it. I set her up how to do it, so that was all right. So
that's why we had the old guy, Johnny.
He's our tech guy.
So we were talking that you think it's. I wanted to show this video actually on the last open forum. I don't know. Did everybody see the Mike Tyson thing in the plane? Have you seen that?
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I got it. It's funny. And this is what it comes to when you push celebrities or you think you're the shit. And you got to watch this video. I'm going to show it right now. Put this on here.
This is George talking to Mike Tyson, bro. This shit crazy, bro. Mike Tyson. My dog done got lit, man. He over here rapping with Tyson. Mike Tyson trying to give us some shrooms. He don't know how to act. Tyson looking out, man. This shit crazy. He should have never gave you niggas money.
Peasants. They're peasants.
Now this part is Mike Tyson's had enough.
Hey. Hey, Mike, come on. Let's go stop back. Let's do the horse, man.
JetBlue mid flight. My boy just got beat up by Mike Tyson. Turn that way. Yeah, he got f***ed up. Just trying to ask for an autograph, man. I don't know what happened.
He was harassing him. He
It
wasn't
did
just
not
trying
seem
to.
that way. That's one of the things I was going to mention. You know, he's pushing it now. You could use that as racial, but we're not going to. On there, but he was constantly harassing him.
Yeah, it's not like that guy was like, "Hey, dude, can I get an autograph?" And Mike Tyson was like, "No." You know what I mean?
Yeah, but going back to the stuff with like Chris Rock, is it right to go the violent route? And
I
Will
mean,
Smith?
no, but at that point, I mean, I feel like this is different than that because with Chris Rock and Will Smith, Chris Rock made one comment and then dropped it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then Will went up there and slapped him. Like this guy was like going and going and going and going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he kept pushing him. And of all people, really, Mike Tyson. Like,
Right.
is that who you're gonna do it to? You already know the motherfucker don't play fair.
Like if I was gonna harass
He
a
bite-
celebrity, he would not be the top of
He's
my
gonna
list.
bite something off of you if he gets pissed off. So
Right, we know he's done that. Johnny says, "Why would you make fun of Mike behind his back?" Well, in a sense, I agree with you, but definitely, why would you do it in front of his face too?
Yeah. Like what the fuck? No one's winning in that situation.
But sometimes you think people get so full of themselves, think they can do anything. These young kids and these young people, a lot of times, they're in this world that it doesn't matter. There's not even a line of respect to show to somebody because you're right. He was harassing him. I would say one punch from Mike Tyson should have been enough, but he was laying into him.
Yeah.
But they think there's
Mike's old now. Take a couple.
right. They think there's no reprimanding for what they do. A lot of times, like they can do what they want, and it's kind of an entitlement thing. And I think sometimes it gets old. It gets out of hand. And also, like I said, you're pretty fucking stupid because you're doing that to the heavyweight boxing champion, Mike Tyson.
Right. Like
if
Well,
the
the
little
thing was
brains
is
you
that-
had are now on the seat next to you.
right.
Right, and he didn't press charges, and some of the people said that he was intoxicated, so it may have been part of it. So
He
I'm
looked
sure.
intoxicated.
Oh, 100%. Especially when Mike was done with him. But I can pretty much guarantee he wouldn't press charges, though, because I'm sure at some point he goes, "God, I dare you, motherfucker, press charges."
Oh yeah.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
like, no, I've had enough. I think you
Or
got
he
your
got off the
punishment.
plane and was like, "Okay, I was a dick."
I mean, I see stuff like that, and it makes me laugh so much sometimes to think that people can really be that stupid.
Yeah. I get it.
But you got to wonder, is the celebrity in the right or wrong? I mean, I kind of agree with,
I agree with him too because even if he wasn't Mike Tyson, like I feel like
Yeah.
if he would have done that to any other human, at one point someone would have stood up and punched him.
Right. And so you knew what was coming.
Right.
So let's go on to something else. Of course, we're talking cost of living still going up. We're going to hit that
That's insane.
really quick. How hard has it been for people? Do we see a return on here? Whose fault do you think it is? And I'll allow a little bit of political part here, but do you think it's really anybody's fault government wise?
I think it's capitalism's fault
That's a good way to say it. I believe that.
because the way that a capitalist economy works is that things need to keep raising in price, right? Like that's
Well,
the
yeah.
way it works. But that doesn't work well if people aren't getting paid more for everything going up in price.
That's the problem. I was talking to one of our panelists, Anthony, on here recently. We were talking about some people where he worked, and they're like, inflation's at 9%, and the best raise they get, like a high raise, is like maybe 2% if they're lucky.
Yeah.
And that is a loss continuously for being out there for your company. And is
Well,
there a way
Brandon and I
to fight that?
Brandon and I were talking about this the other day. Like, if Brandon and I were in our exact same financial situation, like with what he makes at work while I'm going to school full time, we would be considered upper middle class if this happened 10 years ago.
Yes.
With what the money he makes right now. But now we are living paycheck to paycheck.
That's how I
Don't
am.
say
And I
what
would have
Chris-
been considered. That,
Like, we would have been rich 10 years ago.
Why'd you have to say white trash? Now I gotta open. I wasn't even gonna drink. Damn it.
Oh, do we drink every time Bill says white trash?
Yeah, white trash for
Yeah.
gay friends. I was
Gay
like,
friends.
yes. It's our drinking game, and he knows it.
I'm down.
I do. So my gay friend Linda is watching this right now.
Maybe she doesn't want anybody to know that. You
Hi,
know that?
Linda.
Hi.
I don't care. As long as you drink.
Way to keep
I'm just white
everything
trash.
personal.
I'm just white trash. It's what I do. I talk about everybody.
It's not going to keep working like
Come on,
that. 'Cause
Keith.
that's when it's intentional.
Come
it
on,
doesn't work.
Keith.
I hate you. I hate you right now.
Yeah, everyone needs to start making more money if they want to keep raising the prices of everything.
Well,
What can we
you know
do
whose
though?
fault it is?
Minimum wage needs
know
to go
who-
up a lot.
I'm going to explain to you, young people, whose fault this is. Okay?
Okay.
It's Betty White's fault because she passed away, and the world went to hell when she died.
I
That is
agree,
very
yeah.
possible. I do think there is some truth to that. That
I
was
think
it.
there's truth to that, but people were not making enough money for being able to live before she passed away. However, yes, it did get worse since she passed away.
The whole world changed. But what can we do? I mean, we can bitch about it. We can talk about it. We can sell this. By the way, Linda says, hi, all. I don't know anything about that game. Just Bill always usually brings up the white trash and his gay friend, so we always drink when he does. It's just what we do. It's just for fun. And I'm sure that everybody's got a little game about them that they don't know about. So
Yeah.
that's
Linda
how it works.
is also my real estate agent, just so you know. So if you want to buy or sell a house, contact Linda McFarland. She's the one. So
Cha-ching, we get paid from Linda McFarland. Yes.
Woo woo.
We just advertised. All right. I was like, thank you, Bill.
I think we
Keller
need to,
Williams.
first of all, raise minimum wage, and then maybe things will start happening from there. And I'm really tired of hearing people saying, oh, if you raise minimum wage, the cost of a Big Mac's going to be $8. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's just simply
what
not.
is minimum wage right now? What is minimum
Um,
wage right now? Because I don't actually know.
I
Like
don't know.
nationally,
$7.75?
I believe it's $7.25.
I thought it went up to like 9
$7.25?
nationally.
It might have in Michigan, but it did not nationally.
Okay, that might be the case then. I know. Well, the thing is, we can't do anything. COVID did something for us when COVID had happened, for the fact that employers started to realize, in a sense, value of employees. You know, people said, we're not going to work for you, blah, blah, blah. So there was a little impact there, but now inflation started really high since everything started opening back up. What can we do similarly to try to make that? We can't all quit our jobs because we need money. We got to survive in this world. And the employers are going to take advantage of that in a lot of ways.
But you get a lot of the places are raising their prices, like the grocery stores and stuff like that. They're raising their prices because of the fact that they don't have enough employees to do what they got to do and get everything out on the shelves. I mean, I go to Kroger all the time. If they have anything there on the day that they're stocking, which is usually Thursday when they get everything in, it's sitting in the aisles because the people at night that come in there and work, they've never done it before, or else they don't give a shit, and they're just there to make their money for 8 hours. And when you can't sell the stuff to the people and get it out there, then instead of making your money on quantity, you'll want to make your money on quality.
I get that, but I don't buy that in a lot of ways, because if that happened for a week or two, I would get it. But it doesn't take that long to train somebody to do stock and to put things away. They should be fully aware of
But
how
they
to do
don't
it by
last.
now. Pardon me?
They don't last. CVS there in Hazel Park, you go to CVS, they've got somebody new in there every day because the people go up there and work. I mean, I from what I've caught here locally, and I don't know about this for sure, but when you're taking unemployment, you still have to go apply for a job or go get a job at some point in time, I guess. And they go and get a job and they stay there for 2 weeks or whatever. And then they come back and say, I couldn't handle that job or blah, 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 and try to get back on the unemployment and stuff. So,
But I see
I get what
employees
you're
in
saying,
places.
Bill, and I think that was happening a lot more when unemployment was giving out bigger benefits because the world was shut down. But unemployment, like you can't live
everyone
off of
took it then,
unemployment.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, but like now
Yeah, everyone
you
took it
can't
then.
live off of unemployment. Like
Yeah,
it's
because you're
not
back doing it to be a fraction of what you made.
right because
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but I'm like 90. Like I'm pretty sure unemployment right now is around $300 a week.
Yes. I think it was
I'm
Like
gonna
for
say this
top
really quietly.
benefits.
I'm going to say this really quietly so I don't get in trouble. but there are so many people that are not going back to work at the big three, and their unemployment is way more than that.
No,
Yeah.
federal, like the state unemployment, the top tier you can get is around $300 a week.
Brandon here says Bill has a point. Our lower skill jobs is plant packaging and inventory. They'll work for 2 to 3 weeks and then leave. We're still seeing it now.
But no one.
I don't think it happens with everybody. I think you've always had people taking advantage of the system.
Right. I don't think
It's
more
always went
people are
both
taking
ways, though.
advantage of the system than they used to pre-COVID. I think during everything, when there were shutdowns, of course everyone was taking advantage of the
Yeah.
system. Why wouldn't you? A lot of people were making more money on unemployment than they were at their job. Of course I'm going to stay home,
Yes.
get paid that.
And I think a lot of
Can't
people
afford
said,
not
I
to.
like this. And I think that's where it came from, too. They like it. They got
but
paid.
before,
Well,
everyone was
with
getting an extra
unemployment-
$800 a week. People were making $1,100
Oh, yeah.
a week on unemployment. Now they're making $300 a week. You can't, if you are a person who lives on your own anywhere, you can't live off of $300 a week. It's not possible.
I can.
I can't. I can't. My car payment insurance alone is almost $1,000 a month.
Not
Well,
alone
I've been
mortgage or
living in the
rent.
Canadian
Yeah.
wilderness, so yeah.
But even that, with the price of housing, most people cannot live for $1,200 and even pay that mortgage or rent, especially because all that's
That's true.
skyrocketing too. And
My
I was
rent
at
is $1,700 a month. 17.
I was at a restaurant the other day, and I left them a bad review. I don't want to say the name of the restaurant. We'll call them Higroy, and they have a salad bar there. And I literally went over there, and I left some worse review because they went up like $5 to get the
Yeah, that's
salad
a
bar,
lot.
and that's like my favorite thing there. That's what I was waiting to come back, and I finally did. And I went up there. I said, okay, well, at least I'm getting it. I'll pay it. And half the items weren't even there because they can't afford to
that
put them
sucks.
on. But this is where I have a problem with places, because if you want to raise your prices to account for what you have to do, I'm fine with that, to account for the cost of your food. If you have to eliminate some food
paying
items,
your employees a minimum livable wage.
yeah. But if you have to, whatever you're doing for it, if you've got to raise prices to counter that, that's great. But if you have to remove items to counter your costs to make sure you can pay people fairly and keep the prices competitive and the wages competitive, that's fair. When you do both, you're in a state of gouging.
Yeah.
And
that's
it's like going into the grocery stores now. Have you walked into any of the grocery stores and look? There are so many off-brand name items that you've never heard before of in your life, and they got them on the shelf and they're selling them for name brand price. Because if they don't have the name brand, they're still trying to make their money that way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon says we didn't see this level of turnover before, though. COVID changed people mentally, and I agree with that. That's what I was thinking. Like, people, they like staying home and making that money if they can't do it the same way anymore. Unemployment doesn't pay a lot, but if the job is hard or just boring, people ditch it. Now, out of personal opinion on that, do you think that is more young people or older people? The reason I'm asking is a lot of people say that young people just don't want to work anymore. And in a sense, pre-COVID, I was kind of discovering that, jobs that require actual hard work, a lot of younger people don't want to do. Whereas I feel when I was younger, people were motivated to work. Like, they wanted to get out of their parents. They wanted to succeed on their own.
Yeah.
Who do you think is mostly, and I'm asking Brandon specifically too, because if he works in factory, out of curiosity, it's a lot of the older or the younger people, or is it a good mix to you?
I want to
Maybe.
throw out there too, a
Go
lot of the workforce we lost during COVID is a lot of the older people straight up retired.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people retired during COVID.
But when people used to retire, they always sought for small part-time jobs. A lot of times, whether it was the simple ones like McDonald's or anything like that, because it was something
Greeter at Walmart.
and they weren't, stuck at home with their thumb up their ass. They were still doing something. They didn't give up on life. And I'm just curious for Brandon's answer, because he's seen it, or anybody who's been in the field who's seen it. Because I've noticed the ones who start and quit because it's too much work have been a lot of the younger generation that's done it. And I feel a lot of the older generations may not be happy, but stick with it.
And the only thing I can say in my actual experience is at my school, like my cosmetology school, their normal class sizes used to be around 10 to 20 students. And ever since my class started, my class had 15 students at the start. The class behind me, 30 students. The class behind that one, 32 students. The class behind that one, another 30 students. So I can say from at least that aspect of like what I live day to day, I wouldn't say it is younger people because over half of those students that have all started are 18 years old.
I kind of
Elena, don't yell at
it's
me.
younger people. Go ahead, Bill.
Don't yell at me, but I'm just going to say it's still part of it, and it always has been for years and years and years now, is kids come home, they play video games, they don't do anything, and that it's a little bit of part of it. But the other thing is you got a lot of parents who do not instill the work ethic into their children.
Oh, I agree. Like my parents, like when I was 16, I got my driver's license. My parents were nice enough to supply me with my first car. It was an old Beater. Fucking loved that car though. There was a half a tank of gas in it. My dad handed me the keys and said, "There's a half a tank in there. That's all you get." I'm like, okay. That was on Monday. I had a job by Friday.
Yeah. I was saying I kind of would like it to be the younger people because I believe younger people will change.
Yeah.
I believe that if it's younger people doing that, then we still have a chance to go in the right direction. If it's older people, I fear those values are going to get
We're
passed
fucked.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what people are going to look at. Like, I don't have to. My dad never had to,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And they're going to lose some of the values. I'm sorry, our comments stopped for a minute. They just all came in, so I missed a few of them. Brandon says, on the flip side, we have a huge price increase in all our raw materials, wages, electricity, all of that, but he hasn't raised prices to cover that. We just took a hit in the margin. And this is where I think companies are making the mistake. Companies have to be able to take a hit on your profits. You're still making profit. And stop passing that hit down to your consumers and your employees on there.
Take the hit and move on.
Right. If you take the hit and don't increase, things will get better, especially in today's market with everyone raising prices. Who's going to have more customers? The one that doesn't. The one that says we care about you. Who's going to have more employees? The ones who take care of their employees. You are still making profit. I'm sorry you're not making $2 million and you're making $1.7 million instead this year.
Right.
Poor you. Fuck off.
This is why we need to tax the rich.
Agreed with that. I do agree with taxing the rich. And I don't necessarily agree with taxing the rich more, but we got to get them out of those loopholes.
No,
that they
I
don't
want
have
the
to
rich.
pay.
I want the top 1% to just pay their fair share.
Yeah.
If almost 50% of my paycheck is going to taxes, almost 50% of their paycheck should be going to fucking taxes too.
Brandon says everybody on Hindi are 30 plus years old, which is that's
Brandon's the youngest person that works there, and he's 27.
Oh, well, then, yeah, all his probably would be. If he's the youngest one, they probably all are 30 plus.
They have a couple of like hourly employees that like a little bit, but like the majority of them are older than him. Like I'm pretty sure he's the youngest salary person there.
Over 45 state at least. There's a caveat with that too. I think when you're going 30 to 50, I think you're dealing with something different too, as far as if you're working a job that can't support your family, and with this rate of inflation, sometimes it can't, you might have to look for something else. I don't know how your company pays, Brandon. It's very possible that they are taking care of them, but a lot of companies aren't. And again, they're passing the hit down to people who have families, who have people and things to take care of, and bills and houses and mortgages, etc. It says we only have 5 people out of the 60 people there that are over 50, and 2 are our owners. 5 out of the 60 over 50 and 2 are owners. So you're saying that most of the people who quit are between the 30 and 50-year-olds on there. So there could be reason for that. But again, all these companies, if you take care of your employees, they're not going to leave you.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly enough, I'm in a position right now because, as I said, with DJing and entertainment, we get paid the same thing we always did. And if I give what used to be a great payment to my DJs that are working, I'm really giving them close to minimum wage. Well, if minimum wage was $15 an hour, I'm really paying them close to that $15 an hour minimum wage to work for me. And I never did that before because I can't afford it. And I can't even take the hit anymore because bars haven't changed anything long before COVID, so I'd be making zero money if I did that. And I still, but you know what, when I have a good employer, I have someone that works out, and even pre-COVID, I cut into my profits to take care of that person, and I will say this person deserves an extra $25 or $50 a night, and I'll take it out of my profit. I mean, one of my DJs that worked at Kelly's, and she got paid more than most because she was really good and she was consistent. And I eat the profit, but you know what happens? People really like the entertainment, and then other bars come and contact me and say, "Hey, we want you to run here, or we want her," and I make more money in smaller doses elsewhere. And those new DJs, I can pay the normal amount, and that's what companies are forgetting. They're like, they want it now. They suffered. They want it now. They need it now. No, your employees need it now because your employees put you where you are.
Right.
And Brandon also says margins dropped from 70 to 55%. Oh, no. And that's what I'm talking about with the profit margins. That was that. Nikki's here. She says, my kids all got jobs at 15, so they knew how to work. And there are some of these parents out there that just don't think their kids need to work. You know, my kid will never have to suffer. And you know what? There's values that come from that.
A lot of
stuff they
value.
need.
Now.
Yes.
But the thing is the parents have worked doing something. I mean, you get a lot of people that I can't say what I want to say because Linda's listening. So, but you get a lot of people who are not physical workers. they don't do physical labor, so they have different ideas about what their kids should do in life. I think
That's one of my biggest
father
issues is that people think that that jobs are beneath them. If you need a job, then no job is beneath you. Like,
my father always told me
job.
all my life, he goes, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're happy with what you're doing and you're making money, all right, don't worry about what anyone else says. And he had the same thing in his mind that I had. He never said it, but I've said it. A man once a long time ago said, if you ever find a job that you're happy doing, you'll never work a day in your life.
In a sense, I believe in that. I mean, that's one thing that I always said about my job. It's frustrating and irritating to get, and I hate it some nights, etc. I truly do enjoy what I do, and I could make more money doing computer programming, which I'm good at that too, and I enjoy it. But I'd rather do that as a hobby. It's something I enjoy, and it's like I don't need to make more money because what's the point if you're unhappy? When you're
Right.
unhappy, when you get that time off, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to deal with people. Your life takes a big hit for that. And I do believe sometimes for less money, you got to do that. You've got to find something you're actually happy that you're motivated to get up and go do, or that you leave.
And Keith,
feeling
you're a
accomplished.
happier man now. You're a happier man now because you don't have to deal with me at trivia. So
Right. That changed my world. That completely changed my world. You had mentioned something about the big three and their profit margin and stuff like that. And they're now, I'm going to go to this math. They're starting to reinstate. Ford has officially reinstated Mass Effects for several counties around here. Since I am Michigan, we are home of the big three. And do you think that this is going? I'm going to hit them. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we're about to jump to the big topic. But do you think the mask issue is something that needs to come back at this point? I did agree with masks so much, but now you're separating. What's your opinion on this?
I think that, I mean, I kind of said that the last podcast I jumped on when I wasn't supposed to. I'm done fucking caring about non-vaccinated people dying of COVID. Like, I'm fucking over it. I don't care anymore. If I walk into an establishment and they say, hey, we're asking you to wear a mask, I'm not going to fight them. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry, I'll put a mask on. But I'm not someone who will just go out already with my mask now because I don't care about unvaccinated people dying anymore.
You do your part. You do your part so long. You can only do it so long.
I did it for like I'm done caring. It's an elective illness. Like, I don't care.
At this point, everybody's made their decisions. You know,
Yeah.
and that's how I see it. I'm like, it's happened. I don't think reinstating is a good idea, and I think if they do that, Ford's going to see a huge turnover again, and it's going to get worse for the car industry, which again is going to lead to profits and inflation, and everything's going to get fucked again because of a simple thing. Instead of letting people just say, hey, this is how we're doing it. You know, if you want to wear it, go ahead. If you don't. You know, even if you say we're not, if you don't take precautions, we're not covering you if something happens, you know, as far as that. But it should still be a choice. Any opinion on that?
I think it should be a choice, but I'm just fucking over it.
Well,
I'm over it.
It is choices in life. I understand that. But if you sit there and listen to what they're saying, which, of course, you know, going back to a different show, you never know what the government and the medical people and everything like that are saying is true. But the COVID cases are rising again. The deaths are rising again, especially here in Michigan. And there's a couple other places that are hot spots where everything's going up.
I know, but we're
You pick and
finally.
choose
But
You-
it's
you
not
pick and
deaths
choose.
of vaccinated people.
It's hardly even deaths anymore.
It is. Okay,
I mean-
right, well, let me say this. All right, so Keith knows part of this, but I'll tell you, I've been vaccinated and boosted, all right, and I've been tested, and I've had COVID virus 3 times.
Yeah, but did you get
Once,
sick?
once before my vaccination, and then twice after that, and yes, I was sick all 3 times.
Yeah, my brother just got it. He was
Now-
really sick and he's vaccinated. I sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah,
to say my
and
brother.
it goes that way. And I mean, I go out anywhere, I still wear my mask. I get people looking at me. I had one lady yell at me, "What, are you afraid to catch something?" I was like, "Well, only if I were
You.
to touch you, bitch." You know, so yeah, no.
So, well, that's.
But I mean,
that's
it's
what I'm
everyone's
saying.
choice.
We were finally getting back to a world, though, where people were just living their life again. It was starting to happen where people weren't so separated. So if you do this, you're going to send us backwards again. You're going to send us, I think, into a bad area. We're going to start split decisions. We're going to start splitting up people again. And we were finally getting back to normal where people just made their decision on their own, because you cannot, no matter what you mandate, you're not going to change the minds of those that do not want it changed.
Right.
I don't care if they're for or against it. You're not going to change their minds. And it's a strand now that, yes, it's still a bad virus, but every strand is easier than the last. Maybe more contagious, but it's easier than the last.
Not
We're getting to
necessarily.
that point. There are not necessarily out there, Bill, with this, but I'm saying in general, as far as the numbers and the bigger rule, the strands are getting better. They're becoming part of they are becoming part of the flu. It's still bad. It's still not the same, but it's headed that direction. Let it work. Live our lives. We spent over 2 years eliminating life, and we need to get back to it. And I think that's the most important. And I'm almost to the point that if it goes back to that, I'd rather go out and die and go out with a bang. At least enjoying what I'm doing instead of being, going this route and being stuck because of the people that won't listen or won't change their mind. I don't want to die. Don't get me wrong. That's how I feel about it. Sometimes I'm like, if I die, I want to be skydiving.
Yeah, I have close to zero sympathy for people who are unvaccinated and are sick. Close
Yeah.
to zero.
Yeah.
It's an elective disease for the most part. Yes, there are breakthrough cases. But the breakthrough cases, people aren't dying.
Yeah.
There's a very small percentage of people that are dying that have been double vaccinated and boosted.
Yeah,
So I don't
it's
fucking care
definitely
anymore.
it's
I don't
definitely
fucking
helpful,
care anymore.
and I agree. All right, and going back to the inflation, I wanted to show this because the war in Ukraine has, of course, been going bad. I don't know if anybody. I'm going to show one more video just because I thought it was very humorous. I don't know if anybody else will, but I don't. But I thought it was humorous. They were shining. Everybody see them shining the Ukraine flag on the embassy in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
And that to me was one of the funniest things I've actually seen. And it's nice to see whoever's doing that have humor with what they're doing. And I put it on the screen. You can talk over. There's no audio. But I think it's really nice to see people with humor. They're moving this flag over to the embassy. And as the spotlight tries to block it out, it's like a game of fucking Pac-Man. And that's what's going through their mind, just the way they move it. I mean, they're bouncing it around.
That's gotta be. They gotta be the Russians.
It's literally playing with who's doing the spotlight. And if anything, it's nice to see things when things are so bad in this world that we did not forget humor.
Yeah, let's have a laugh about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're missing. Everybody is so uptight about shit. That is what we're missing in this world. Most of the time, we need humor. We need to laugh. I saw that, and I was just bowled over because you're thinking whoever's doing that was doing it out of protest, and literally it just got in their head like, oh yeah, bum, 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 bum. No, you can't get me, can't get me. And just to know that during all this turmoil, they had to be smiling when they're doing it.
Oh yeah.
And they did see the good things in life. And I always like when people do that. And I think that's important. But let's get away from all that because Elena has been hot for this for a while. And I am also kind of on the page. Let's talk about it. Roe v. Wade.
Johnny Depp? Oh.
No, she's fucking nuts.
We don't talk about Amber Turd on this.
Yes.
page.
Amber Turd.
It is a good point with the Johnny Depp thing. That is something to also, but people are taking like, oh my God, see, guys get abused too. We knew guys got abused.
We already knew
And
that.
and I'm also going to say to him, get the fuck out, Johnny Depp. I mean, if this has been going on for so long, so bad, you're just as guilty as those women that stay in those bad relationships.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry to hear it. It shouldn't happen, but it shouldn't happen to anybody. And just because you're fucking Johnny Depp, there's a lot of people who aren't Johnny Depp that don't get the kind of attention you do, and don't get to see the kind of crazy person they're married to. And that goes both ways, both sexes. So back to Roe v. Wade. Elena, I'll let you start. How
Do you first want me to just explain what it is?
Go ahead.
So, Roe versus Wade was took place. I don't even know actually when it did take place, but it's basically a law that got created because that all surrounds around privacy. A lot of laws have been created around that have to do with privacy, including abortion, including same-sex marriages, and including interracial marriages.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are really only focusing on abortion in this context, but once it's overturned, states do have the right now to overturn same-sex marriages and interracial marriages and even HIPAA laws, because it all has to do with privacy.
Do you really think they will? Do you
I
think
think
that stretch
some
is going to
might.
go?
I
Or do you
think
think they're gonna
some
try?
might. I think some super conservative states might. I think people that live in Florida and Texas are fucked, unfortunately. Luckily, and there's a lot of states right now that just that before Roe v. Wade was passed, abortion was illegal in. So when it's overturned, automatically in Michigan, abortion's illegal. Luckily, Big Gretch is out here saying, I'm not prosecuting people for getting abortions. So luckily we're protected because we have Governor
Or somebody
Whitmer.
in support of choice. Yeah.
Right. So, but a lot of other states, the second it's overturned, immediately it's already banned because it was before Roe v. Wade happened.
Was Roe v. Wade okay? Now, here's my issue. Roe v. Wade was a court case, obviously, where they decided that it was immoral to prevent them from doing that. First, Linda here says she totally agrees. Alabama, Oklahoma, and other states like that are going to be stuck in that area.
Yeah.
Was Roe v. Wade the right choice to make? And when I say that, by the way, you know my stance on it. I do believe in choice. But when Roe v. Wade was done, abortion is a question of morality. Roe v. Wade was something that government stepped into based on morality. Government should not be able to dictate morality. As much as I believe in the choice, was it a right decision to do to begin with?
Like to ban abortion or to not
No,
ban
to
abortion?
the original Roe v. Wade case. That was
Roe v. Wade wasn't just about morality. I think it had to do, and that's a lot of people that got involved in it. It had a lot to do with religion.
Well, that's still government mixing church and state. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
I don't agree and think it was a good choice or a bad choice in either direction. I personally support Roe v. Wade. But was it the right decision for government to step in on something that was based on religion and morality?
I think so, because they made the choice that people should get to choose. You know what I mean? Like when the case was over, the government made the choice basically stating you don't get to make laws based on your religion around abortion. You know what I mean?
Yes. So you're saying because they're taking government out of the religion, which was the answer I was looking for. I'm sorry.
Right.
That case actually took government out of religion. But what about now fighting it to a Supreme Court case? Is it wrong when you put it to state level? You are more dealing with the electorate or the populace of your state, which agree or disagree with what they say, but you're still taking it somewhat out of government's hands. How bad do you think that really is if it's left up to the states?
I think it's absolutely horrible, mostly because some states are doing different things. So there are some states that are already saying, yes, when this is overturned, you cannot, abortion's banned here.
Yes.
Some states are going as far to say, even including ectopic pregnancies, which those pregnancies are not viable regardless of anything and could kill the mother. They're still saying that is not an exception. So that's because the baby cannot survive, and then the mother also might not survive. So that's fucked up. And like along with that, I think it's Missouri, but I could be mistaken, is even saying that women that use IUDs are going to be charged with murder. I don't know if everyone knows what an IUD is. It's
Yes.
an implant
Well, I
that
do.
goes in the uterus, and it's a form of birth control that many women use because you don't have to take it every day. You get it like inserted, and then you're good for some are 3 to 5 years, some are up to 10 years. It's just a form of birth control.
Yeah.
And they're even saying, nope, you're a murderer if you use an IUD, which is fucked up.
I agree with
I
that.
think it's entirely pushing this. It's not a pro-life movement. It's a pro-birth movement, in my opinion.
Part
Okay.
of the thing that people are having a problem with it is, so Roe versus Wade was, I think, in 73.
That sounds about right. I trust you.
Bill?
And
Oh, there.
so you got to figure, I'm here.
Okay, you're good.
So you got to figure that's 49 years ago. So everyone's having, oh yeah, well they did it then, it was then, and this is now, and it's on both sides, the pro and the con of it, because the ones who are saying, you can't do this to us, it was that long ago, and the 70s was a different time.
But I totally agree that the
He says
70s was a different
He said the
time.
ghost.
No,
Yeah.
my dog's in the trash right now, and I'm trying not to yell at her. I was like,
But I think that there's just so many issues with the government telling people what they can and can't do with their bodies. And it, like, if Roe v. Wade is overturned, it can even go to the point where, like, let's say, like, because it's all based around privacy. It's not just an abortion. It's all privacy. That's why I wanted to bring up, like, HIPAA laws could be gone away.
right.
Like right now, it's illegal. Like if I go to apply for a job and I'm pregnant, it's illegal for my employer to ask me if I'm pregnant, and it's illegal for them to not hire me because I'm pregnant. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, in some states, it could be completely legal for me to go apply for a job, tell them I'm not pregnant. They could be allowed to call my doctor and ask them. Like that could become legal. And not even just with that, but like with other things, like not even surrounding pregnancy. It could be completely legal for other people to start pushing their religious beliefs or their medical beliefs on other people. It could become completely legal for people to lose their choices on everything. It could become completely legal. Like if like someone who is anti-vax goes to the hospital because they don't feel good, it could become completely legal for that hospital staff, like even just a nurse, go up to them and say, oh, well, I believe in vaccines, so you're getting them regardless. Like that could become legal.
Yeah,
I think
and
everyone
don't
should be
think that's right
vaccinated, but I
either.
still do believe everyone deserves the right to choose.
Because it's still your body, yeah. So
Because it's still your fucking body. You guys know I'm preaching vaccines all over the place.
No,
over
I
here,
get
but
that, but it's like
but it's
me.
still
I'm
your
actually
fucking
against
body.
abortion, but I'm for choice. I'm
Yeah.
personally against it. I don't like abortion, but I am pro-choice. It's your body, it's your choice. How about out there, anybody in the chat? What is your opinion on the Roe versus Wade overturning, if it is and likely will happen? On there, what is your opinion on that? And do you think it's going to have a greater impact? My issue really has nothing to do with abortion when it comes to Roe v. Wade. I really could give two shits less about that, turning it over to the states in a sense. I have my opinions on abortion. But it's the fact that you can take a ruling now and undo, that you're able to undo things that have made this country so great, that have made it better. You can take anything that people were satisfied with. And this was done. This whole thing was done merely to give these rich white men their way. Nobody in America really cared about Roe v. Wade. There was a select group, but it was like under 3% that even cared at all about Roe v. Wade being there.
Yeah.
Or the abortion. With everything going on in our country, the fact that you're going to do this to stir up controversy and commotion, and you're going to remove a ruling that was made, like he said, 40 years ago, almost 50 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that going to lead our country? And that's something you were talking about, Elena, when it comes to like gay marriage and equality and stuff like that. And again, all these things you're talking about that I'm talking about, they are religious morality related stuff the government should be stepping the fuck away from.
Yeah. And it's just like, first of all, one of my favorite sayings of all time is if I wanted the government in my uterus, I'd fuck a fucking senator.
They're fucking you anyway, so it could happen.
Exactly. And then it's like, so many people, I don't know why, but so many people believe if you just ban abortion, then there will be no more abortions.
No, just no
Abortion's
safe ones.
never gonna, yeah. And I promise you, all of those fucking senators that are voting to overturn this right now, all of those Supreme Court judges that are voting to overturn this right now, I fucking promise you that all of their mistresses are still going to get safe abortions. I fucking promise you.
For sure. Well, you got to remember that I truly believe that most people in government are above the law.
Absolutely.
That's exactly,
Why wouldn't they be?
what it is. I mean,
and then you got to think about back in 72 and 73, because Texas did this, and it all went through Texas with the Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Part of it was when they were denying everything, the part of it went into the fact because there was a lot of women that were having very unsafe abortions. And a lot of the women died from having their abortions.
That was the point. There were
midwives or whoever it was, and everything going on. So,
well, that's how it's starting to feel. I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone. I'm for myself as a woman in this country. Yes, I currently live in a state where it's going to be safe. And even if our state did end up banning that, I have the privilege to go to a different state to get a procedure done. A lot of other people do not have that privilege. Like, they don't have the money to travel over there or stuff like that. So it's like, even if this did happen in our state, I am very privileged where I would not have to deal with that. But it also comes down to, like, let's say, like, as soon as all of, like, everything was leaked about Roe v. Wade getting overturned, I was texting Brandon about it because, like, we want to start trying to have kids within, like, a year or so, maybe. And I was like, I'm terrified to get pregnant. He was like, why? That wasn't our plan anyway. I was like, abortion wasn't our plan anyway. I was like, I fully understand that. But let's say it becomes illegal here and I miscarry. I could be charged with murder for miscarrying, not trying to. And that will happen in some states if this all goes through.
I don't know how much I agree with it. Miscarriage as an unintentional miscarriage being considered a degree of murder, but bringing up the murder
I don't think so.
is a good thing, because that's when I got to play devil's advocate on it. When you talk about abortion, your belief that abortion is murder in some way, regardless what side you're on, then that does become a government law. That does become government something to step into, because it is.
And it has to do with how far along you are in your pregnancy too.
And that's what I was going to go for. So term limits.
Well, so there are some not medical professionals, but senators, because they're not talking to medical professionals about procedures and whatnot. They're literally making laws that make no fucking sense. Like, ectopic pregnancies, like, kiss my fucking ass. But there are some senators that believe abortion, because abortion is just like the medical term for a miscarriage. It is considered an abortion. If I miscarry a child at 25 weeks,
you're aborting the baby.
Right, but very far along, if I miscarry that baby, to stay alive as a human, I need what's called a DNC, which is another medical term for abortion. They go in, they remove all of the cells, so I don't get an infection and die. In some of these states that we're seeing, they are still going to make that procedure illegal. Even if the fetus is no longer heartbeat or anything, it will still be illegal for a medical professional to perform a DNC on me to remove the dead fetal tissue to save my life.
Is that a fear or a belief?
I think both, because I'm pretty sure it's Missouri also that has said, like, no sort of thing, no DNC, no anything.
There's no state in the 50 United States that can deny you anything from saving your life. Right? It's
they
the same
can.
thing. It goes back
if
the other way.
If there's a fetus that involves with it, they can, and they fucking will.
If there's a fetus, if you have a fetus that is inside of you that could take your life, there's no state in the United States that can keep you from taking that fetus out to save your life.
As of right now, when this is overturned, Bill, and I'm not trying to tell you that you're wrong, I'm just trying to give you the information.
If it's overturned,
we're fucked.
Everyone's going to have a different idea what it is.
I'm going to actually agree a little bit with Bill and disagree with Elena on this one too, because even prior to the Roe v. Wade ruling, there were stipulations in these states when it came to saving the life of the mother, that the abortions were still allowed, and before Roe v. Wade ever happened, that they still did.
No,
It
and I
was still
fully
to
agree.
save your
Prior
life.
to I agree. Prior to Roe v. Wade, that happened. However, now states are talking about not doing that anymore because they're not talking to medical professionals about it. They're just letting fucking white rich senators that are men make decisions for people who have no medical background.
And
at
some
all.
women too.
Well, yes.
Unfortunately, some
Elena,
women too.
they're not going to do that because anywhere in the United States,
Bill,
like I
they're
said,
already talking about it.
I
They are
understand they're
talking about
it,
this, whether it's going to
I'm
happen.
saying they're not going to do it because of the fact. All right, so if you're right next to a car accident and there's someone hurt there, if you don't and you see it and you witness it, if you don't do everything you can to help that person, you can get in trouble. It would be the same thing with a doctor sitting there and saying that you have a fetus inside you that is no longer working and it's going to take your life. They're going to have to take that fetus out of you because if they don't, they're going to go to jail.
If it's going to kill you
Bill,
based on that, I don't
I
think that'll
promise
happen.
you, I agree with you. But in Missouri, they've already are banning ectopic abortions for ectopic pregnancies, which results in a dead fetus every time, and sometimes in a dead mother. They're already banning that.
I think there's a lot of stuff that they are talking about and they are banning that is on the table, but I don't think a lot of that's going to come to fruition because there is a lot of truth to what Bill's saying, that you have the right to life above anything and your own life before that. But they could be saying, based on endangerment of your life, you can't get aborted. But as Bill was saying too, if the fetus is dead, they're going to take it out of you.
No, but
And-
that's the thing with some ectopic pregnancies, there's still a heartbeat, but there's absolutely zero possibility of the fetus surviving outside the womb.
Right.
So in those situations, they're saying that, well, there's still a heartbeat, but there's zero chance that fetus will live.
I want to get to this question. Yeah, Linda says, recently I was in a heated discussion with a white male that lives in Sarasota, Florida metropolitan area about abortion. He used the argument that men have to pay child support, implying that the
I don't
Roe v.
care.
Wade includes laws for men that make them pay child support. And to that end, he was for overturning Roe v. Wade because he would not have to pay for it. Does anyone know if this is true? Yes, there were stipulations in Roe v. Wade that did cause fathers to have to pay child support on things because of the abortion. They choose to
If
keep
men
it.
don't
And
want to
that-
pay child support, men should wear condoms and get vasectomies.
Well, I mean,
Whoa.
women don't want to take all the steps too that
The
they
hell?
could do. When it comes to that, anybody who's having freelance sex is taking that risk, no matter
No,
what.
and I agree. I 100% agree. However, women are already getting medical procedures done for forms of birth control, i.e., IUDs.
Mm-hmm. Because
That's a
they have
medical
IUDs
procedure,
now.
and it's an extremely, extremely painful procedure that they give you zero anesthesia for.
So is getting my nuts clipped.
That'll tell you no. Getting your nuts clipped is an outpatient procedure that takes about 10 minutes, and they do give you some sort of numbing and anesthesia. With an IUD insertion, they give you zero. Sometimes they tell you to take a couple ibuprofen before you come in.
But the form of protection can't be it's more painful for me than you. And I should do it. I mean, you got to make that choice. If you're going to I don't care if you're the guy or the girl. If you're the guy and you're going to be having sex freely with whoever you want and you don't want to deal with having a baby, that is your choice to either get those things.
No, that's what I'm saying. But that's why I get so
Whatever.
mad when men are always just like, well, it's about child support. It's very easy to not get pregnant. I have been having sex for many years now, and I've never been pregnant. It's fucking easy.
But
for
it is a
some
good
reason-
argument. It's a good argument.
No, it's a good argument, but the people that are complaining about paying child support aren't fucking wearing condoms.
Oh, I'm not saying they aren't, but the thing is, it's a good argument because women don't have to face that. When it comes to Roe v. Wade child support, women don't have to face it. So it's something men
Some women
can
pay
grasp
child
into
support.
in general. In general, is
Very,
what I'm
very
referring to.
few. Very, very few.
Pretty much, if the
And
woman's going to
in-
have the baby, they split. They can easily go after the man for child support. That is one of the things that does affect men. Is what I'm saying. I'm not
No, and
agreeing with you that child support should be the reason because I still say zip it up. You know, and when I say
Right.
zip it up, I don't care if it's protection. I don't care if it's a condom. I don't care what it is. I'm just saying you have options. Men have options. So do women have options. But I don't think to say men can just do this or women can just do this is right because you both can do it. You know, if
It
you don't
takes
want
two
to
to
father a
tango.
child, you can protect yourself. If a woman does not want to have a baby, she can protect herself. Those options are there. for them to do. Linda's continuing your question. I want to get to it. That says the reason I'm asking is because if men have to pay child support, why would they be for not overturning Roe v. Wade? If abortion is allowed, this is a solution for men who don't want to pay child support. It seems men should want to support not turning this decision over.
Linda, because it's all about men being able to control women's bodies.
And this is where we knew this was going to happen, and I agree. I don't think that's
Oh, there it
necessarily the
is.
case. I
Do
think
you
it's,
really not think that that's what it's about?
you had mentioned to me through text when we first talked that you thought it was more attack on women. I don't think it's attack on women. I think it's attack on democracy. I think it's attack on
believe it's an attack on women.
having
Then why aren't
control
we
It's
over
an attack
people,
on the
period.
law.
Yes, that's what I see
why
it
don't we
as.
see why don't we ever see ever in the whole history of the entire world ever see a law about men's bodies? Why has that never been a thing?
Well, I
Men
can't
are
show
not
my
allowed
penis
to
in
walk
public.
naked down the street.
Yeah, I can't
Neither
show
are
my
women.
penis in public.
Neither
Right,
are women.
but it's
right
it's
now.
on
Yeah.
both. It's
No,
on
I'm
both.
talking about just men. Tell me one
what-
law that pertains to just men's bodies. Just
Tell
the
me-
government telling men what they can and can't do about
Tell
them.
me one thing that affects both people that only pertains to women besides pregnancy. You
A lot of
can have
things.
babies. Yeah, but you can have babies that the government gets involved in. I'm not talking about voting or things we've come across or women's rights and stuff like that in the future, because that's something we're trying to fix as we come
No, I
along
know
in
we're trying
society.
to. I know we're trying to fix it. I don't think they're trying to fix it. I think they're
I don't-
trying
I don't
to
wanna-
take us a couple.
I don't want to say
years
anything
back.
really, really bad on here, but men can get physically or chemically castrated where women don't.
When are
That's
men
also
getting
true.
physically or chemically castrated?
Men can be chemically
I
castrated.
believe
No, I know they can, but is that a law that's happening?
it is in the books, and it counts on what the judge rules, and it has
Oh,
to
yeah.
do with child molestation and stuff. So yeah,
So
Okay,
there
well
is
then-
laws in that way.
and
It's
that's,
just an
that's the only
example.
law
I
I
know
know
it's
about
not-
men.
I know it's not necessarily as extreme as the whole abortion case, but it is a perfectly fair
Right.
example on things that affect men as well. I do think that women
I don't
are
consider
truly
child
affected.
molesters just men. I think they're I think they're a whole different.
No, but a woman
And
shot
that's why I didn't want to mention it. I'm just saying that is something. So
the point of the argument, I think, is that men have the law against them in that case. Okay, where women are not going to be castrated in that way, chemically or physically. So that law
Right.
is pretty much against men alone, even though they both can be molesters or rapists.
you have had more cases of and Elena, just go with me because I'm just saying this, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You've had more cases of women teachers who have screwed their students and never had to have anything done to them like that, where men who have screwed little girls and stuff like that get ordered chemically castrated or physically castrated in life. So
it is a law that affects them.
And I'm not saying that you're
I wanna go
incorrect.
after
I
you
will
speak.
I will just say really quick, I could name at least 10 men off the top of my head who have sexually abused a woman, and I could not name more than 2 women of just people I know. So I
Yeah, but
will
that goes-
say that.
Oh,
as
no, I
far
understand
as
that. I'm just
people
saying
sexually
what you
abusing,
see
I
and hear.
think that-
So
No, I know, but I'm talking about I'm not talking about celebrities. I'm talking about 10 men who I know in my personal life who have sexually assaulted a woman. You know what
Now,
I mean?
well, at that point in time, that's when you call me and I take care
I'm
of
gonna
that
get to that,
situation,
Linda.
even though I didn't just say that. So,
I want to, because Linda's asking a really good question, and we're getting a little off topic to what her question is actually stating. Is it's why would, and in my personal opinion, right now with Roe v. Wade in effect, the woman is making the choice to keep the baby or whatever that's going to cause the man to pay child support. Okay, and she has that right, and she has that choice, even though he doesn't want the child. If she decides she wants it and keeps it, there are laws in place that they can fight to, which is going to cause the man to pay child support. If Roe v. Wade is taken away and they are forced to have the baby, the women cannot use.
There will
that
be way
against
more
them.
child support being paid.
There may be, but the guy's way of thinking on this is the woman is not going to have the choice to fuck them over. and they can say, I didn't want this child, she's keeping it, whatever. And the woman might choose other options or be more careful. When the government is involved, the woman does not have the capability to screw them over the way your friend is probably referring to. I
Right.
don't think, I still agree with our previous statements there, Elena, that it was his fault, his choice, or whatever, as well as it was the woman's choice, you
Yeah.
know, to have that. But that is the argument that I think they're trying to say. And she continued that says, so if Roe versus Wade is overturned, does that mean men don't have to pay child support? And in some cases, yes, it does. It will help.
It will come to that. It will come to that point that if the woman has to have the child, all right, someone is going to pass a law saying that there's going to be discussion about it. There's probably going to be a law come up that says this man, because she chose to have the child, even though the man didn't want it, there's going to be a law that's going to be pushed through somewhere, and it'll probably be Texas first, yeah, and saying that he doesn't have to pay child support.
Yeah. and that's-
Because there's a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of senators that think that pregnancy is a punishment for women. Like, that's kind of like how a lot of them are making things seem by being
there's
like,
a lot
oh,
of
well,
women
she,
that think pregnancy is a punishment for women.
Well, yeah.
That's right.
I'm talking specifically
I
about
know,
like,
I know.
That's a
the
pregnant
white men in
again.
power. The white men that are making these decisions, not just like agreeing with these decisions, you know what I mean? That think that like, oh, well, then she shouldn't have been having sex. It's like, okay, so if you want to just teach abstinence only, are you also going to tell men to not have sex? Because I don't think that will ever happen.
No, but do you think it's going to happen either way?
I
Sex is a
think,
part of human nature.
I know, but there's so many of these Christians that are saying like, oh no, like it's only between a man and a married man and a married woman. I disagree. I think everyone should be having sex. I think it's natural. Animals do it. It's fun.
Yeah.
We all have a good time. Have as much sex as you want.
Animals do
Be
it?
safe,
Really?
but have as much sex as you want. I think it's great.
Well, we're nothing but mammals. Let's do it like they do it on Discovery Channel. Bloodhound Gang definitely had it right. That's where my question of the morality comes in. That's what I do fear with this overturning more than I know how passionate you are about it being an attack on women. I definitely can see where you're coming from when you say that. Hi there, Brandon.
No.
I can
Brandon
definitely
just
see.
said,
Hey.
Brandon just said, I heard have as much sex as you want. Is that my cue?
That's why he opened the door. Okay.
That's why he opened the door.
We can't do it live on the show. Much to Bill's dismay.
Hey, damn it. All right, so just so I can say something real quick, just so you know. So the original Roe versus Wade, when it happened, in case everyone doesn't know, so they labeled I don't know what the lady's real name was, but they labeled her as Jane Roe instead of Jane Doe. But she already had kids, and then when she got pregnant with her last kid, she didn't want to have the kid because the family could not afford to have another kid, and that's what all the part of it came up about at point in time back in the 70s. So
Exactly. It wasn't even a woman out being promiscuous, like fucking anything that could move. Like she was having sex with her
well,
husband.
that was never stated whether it was her husband or somebody else. Just saying. But the thing was, is she
I know.
became pregnant with either a third or fourth kid, and they couldn't afford another kid,
Yeah.
and that's why she didn't want to have the child.
Well, again,
Which is fair.
I think it all
Kids are
comes down
expensive.
to, like I said, my biggest problem where I do agree with Elena with the attack on women's rights. I don't understand why you feel that way. I think it's attack on morality. I think it's attack on people in general, and an attack on laws and saying we can do what we want, we can have it our way, you can't stop us. And that's, I think, what's being demonstrated. And I think that is the biggest fear of all, because I don't know how big of an impact Roe v. Wade is truly going to have if it's overturned. I do think there are a lot of ways it could have a huge impact that could negatively affect our country. But I don't truly know if that's going to be the case or there's going to be other options. We also live in a different world 50 years later where there are other options. You know, there may be other things that people can do. But the attack on morality goes back to, is there going to be somebody, because of these old Christian white men, that's going to say, I'm sorry, I just did a wedding for two women, and it was a beautiful wedding, but to say these two people in love can't get married. Is there going to be
And that's
something?
possible.
Yeah, and that is where my fear truly comes in with this. it's not the abortion. It's like they would say with a drug, it's a gateway. You know, to open up, to take so many things that we fought so hard for as a country, to take them away and take away the rights of people. And I think it's attack on rights. I just think one of the biggest things they could have used for an attack on rights at this point was the oldest law, one of the oldest laws that affected those rights, which would be the Roe v. Wade, which would be abortion, because they can't really attack gay marriage. They can't really do all this. It's been around for a short amount of time. You know, they want us to go back. They want to start and say, you don't have this power, and it is it is more an attack on women. Don't get me wrong. I agree, but I don't think that's the main purpose of it. I think it's for
I don't
something
think
bigger.
it's just an attack on women, but I do think there is an attack on women.
I can agree with that.
I
it
don't
does
think
affect
just
more.
women are going to suffer from this.
Mm-mm. No, and it's going to drip to a lot of people. It's going to drip down to a lot of other people, and
I think it's all being stemmed, similar to what you're saying, Keith. I think it's all being stemmed because the rich white Christian men want to create more rich white Christian men.
I said at the start of this broadcast, or earlier in the broadcast, we were talking about wages and what employers can do and blah, blah, blah. What can we do? We can't quit our jobs, etc. This is a situation where, I'm sorry, we can do something. And when it comes
I've heard
around,
of so many protests or like so many strikes that women on the internet are going insane right now. I've heard there's a group of women, like a big group of women, like thousands of women in this country right now that are saying, like, we need to get this through to every woman's mind how bad this could be. And everyone, for 2 weeks, no woman should have sex with a man for 2 fucking weeks. It won't happen. If not one woman in this whole country had sex with a man for only 2 weeks, Roe versus Wade would not be overturned.
I know a lot of gay women, because I have gay friends, and they have not had sex with men. So there you go.
No, I know. And I'm saying, like all the women, like, they can have sex with other women during this 2 week.
And I've got a question. All right. So this is not a white trash question, but Keith,
God damn it.
There are religions. Elena, drink, Keith, drink.
I'm getting there.
This is a question. So this is my thought, honestly, and it's something I thought about while we were talking about this. So there are religions in the United States here where there are men who have more than one wife, and they have kids and kids and kids and kids and kids. So if they overturn Roe versus Wade, because these people have their religious beliefs, is it going to affect them?
I'm not
because
sure.
Most of those people don't have abortions or anything, but there has been point in times where Ezekiel's son screwed his sister or whatever and shit like that, and they have actually ran to the hospital, left wherever they're at, and went there to get an abortion, saying, "I had sex with my brother and now I'm pregnant," type of thing. And it's few and far between, but is that going to affect them?
Yes.
Well, a lot of the states are even saying, like, there are no exceptions for ectopic pregnancies, incest, rape, no exceptions.
They're saying that, but that's not been an issue yet, even in the past. So it's very possible that what they're saying, that's why I meant it. Not everything being said is going to come to fruition. That goes with what states and governments have been talking about during pre-elections and stuff like that. Not everything stated is ever going to come to fruition. So we can hope and have a little positive attitude towards it. Is what I'm saying. It's scary.
No, and I agree. But I do think that we shouldn't all just sit back and hope. I think that we should be protesting, saying what we need to say to protect women and stuff like that.
We'll get to some of Brandon's comments here. He says it won't affect
Brandon, bring me another beer.
Rich white Christian women won't get in trouble for abortions. No,
true.
Because government-connected daddy will pay for them. Typically, if they need to. And it's this is a really good point, because it disproportionately affects low-income households, which is very true. And that's where they're going after. And there is something you can spin this to be almost a racial thing and stuff like that too, and low income. And that's the kind of rabbit hole.
There you go, girl.
That's the kind of rabbit hole we're coming down to.
Well,
one
that
of
was
his
one other
favorite
thing I
quotes.
wanted to talk
Go
about,
ahead.
like how it disproportionately affects low income households. I
Oh, I
brought
thought
this
we were
up
going to talk about
earlier.
the rabbit hole.
No, I brought up earlier capitalism, and another way that capitalism doesn't work is if the poor doesn't stay poor.
Right. Right.
A great way to make the poor stay poor is to have them forced to have more kids.
There's a lot of views you can look at. I don't agree with all those views, but there is definitely some truth to what that could mean. And that is, like I said, this can be spun a lot of ways to affect more than just being about babies and having
I
kids and
don't,
aborting
it's
them.
not,
That's
like,
what
I
I'm
fully
saying.
believe
It
it's
can be
not
spun so well.
about babies because
Right.
they don't give a fuck what happens to the baby once
No,
it's
I meant
born. That's
abortion,
why
like just having babies and aborting them and stuff. So I mean,
no,
there's
I
a
know,
lot
but that's
more.
right. But that's why I always just go back to it's not pro life, it's pro birth. They don't give a fuck about what happens to the kids after they're born, and they don't give a fuck about the women that are dying having these fucking babies.
Yep, I will actually agree with a lot of what you just said. Brandon's favorite quote from these people is, "If you can't feed them, don't breed them." But now they are working on taking away the ability to not breed them. Well, I disagree with that statement. They're not taking away that ability. Again, even though it's a choice that we do not make because we're a human society, we do have that choice. We do have that ability to say we're not going to. You know, I'm sorry if you've got AIDS, I'm not having sex with you. If I know you got gonorrhea, I'm probably not doing it. There are things that we know that we could be
But
in
you'll go
trouble.
for chlamydia, right?
Oh yeah, chlamydia is fine. Shot. I'm done.
Yeah, chlamydia is easy.
Yeah. But no, there are things
So-
when we have certain things in front of our face, we're willing to say, no, I'm not going to have sex with this people. But when it comes to, oh, if I might get them pregnant, we take away our ability to not breed them. No, we still have that ability. Right or wrong, we have that say. We don't want to live that way. I don't want to live that way. Elena doesn't want to live that way. Bill definitely doesn't want to live that way. But we do have that ability. They're not taking away the ability to not breed. We have that before they could ever take it away by just not having sex and whatever. Not going to happen. But
So
that's
do
not
you
that.
think now that the government's getting involved in this and everything and what they're doing, so do you think that each state, when you're on state assistance and you have so many kids, and they should tell you that, hey, if you come up pregnant again, we're not going to give you any more assistance, because
I
I
do
think
No,
believe
that's
that's
because
something
they
that's going to
want
be
the
there.
poor to stay poor.
It's not the poor to stay poor, honey. If they're already on assistance, what I'm saying is, I'm just going to generalize. So if a woman has 3 children and she's on state assistance and she has no one supporting her other than the state, and she gets pregnant again, should the state support the next child?
I don't know. That's a good question. Brandon actually brought up
It
something
sounds like
similar.
they're
I'm
going to
pull it
force her
up.
to have the child. So yeah, they should.
So should they
should
support it?
support the child too.
But if you can't, I kind of agree with that. In your family, and you can't afford another child, and you're on state assistance, and yet you're still going to try to have another
If
child.
you're on state
Yes,
assistance,
accidents happen.
you should do everything in the world that you can, honestly. And I have nothing against anyone. Don't get me wrong, Elena. If you're on state assistance and you got 2 or 3 kids, you should do everything in the world that you can not to get pregnant, whether it's IUD, a sponge, or a patch on your arm, or whatever it is, to not have another kid.
But
No, and Bill, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. We're on the same page. However, birth control is a privilege, right? Birth control is very expensive for someone who does not have insurance.
If you're on the state,
sex is a privilege.
you can get whatever you want. If you work with the state, they'll MD, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, will give a woman anything they want as far as to not get pregnant again. And they do it for men too.
Right, and I agree.
That's not a lie.
And you're correct. I will say there are a lot of issues with just birth control in general. IUDs are great. I think they're the most effective form of like women's birth control, just because they go in and they're good to go. You don't have to take it every day. Like you set it and forget it. You know, it's like a crock pot. However, they are extremely painful. Like like extremely painful. Like a lot of women when they go and get theirs implanted will like say, I'm not getting this taken out of me unless you put me out. I'm not going through that again. So like that's the issue with an IUD. The pill is great. However, you have to remember to take it every day. And there's a ton of fucking hormones in it. And it affects you horribly with a lot of women. Not all the time. Some women love the pill. That's great. Love that for them. There's the implant that goes in your arm. That causes a lot of fucking issues with a lot of, like, none of them are great, is my point.
My daughter wears a patch, and she just told me tonight that it's 99.5% effective.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And especially if
Right.
that patch is not giving her any bad side effects. However, I do know women who have had bad side effects with the patch because everything affects everyone's body.
Yeah,
differently.
anybody can have a side effect from anything. People can chew a piece of gum and have a side effect. So, just agreeing that there's anything to be hard. Brandon says spending money
Men put on a latex condom. They don't know they're allergic to latex. You know what happens
that
to
shit
them?
burns.
They go to the hospital.
I
They go to
know,
the
I'm allergic
hospital just like that.
I was like,
They also make
like
latex-free condoms, though.
they do. There are
They
options.
do,
Like I
but
say,
when
there's
you
always
don't know that you're allergic to latex, folks, the same thing with anything else. You don't know if you're allergic to the patch or what it's going to do to you.
I
Once you
know,
find-
Bill, but
okay.
I feel by the time someone is
Everybody
having
who's allergic to
sex,
something
they
finds out at
probably
some point.
already know they're allergic to latex. They've been around a balloon in their childhood. They probably already know that they're allergic to it.
I didn't. But still, I find out, and I don't use latex anymore. It's that simple for me. Like,
Yeah, you go to the hospital once.
Yeah, and you learn it. That's the same if I had a peanut, and I had a peanut allergy or anything like that. But I want
Like,
to get
I'll
to the
tell you-
comments
Yeah, sorry, get to the comments.
because we got before we get there. He said that it is more money for food stamps and childcare. I don't know why kids are so much more expensive, so it's not a money thing than paying for an abortion. It is. I do think it's a control thing, but I also think that somehow the medical companies have a lot to do with this too, because there's another thing about not being able to get abortions that does drive up the cost of medical procedures into items that will prevent pregnancies, that will make it more of a necessity. So I do think there's something in with the medical thing. Birth control is so expensive if you don't have insurance. However, I do believe, even as Bill was saying, there's a lot of state insurance programs that do help with that, especially if you've had a kid. But it is.
Oh,
and-
can I make a really, really,
Yeah.
really quick PSA?
All right.
If we have anyone watching this show that is living in a state that might ban abortion, and you don't have insurance and can't get any form of birth control for free or whatever, there's this awesome app. It's called the Nurx app, NURX. You can get birth control, like whatever you need, the patch, the pill, whatever. They'll deliver it to your house. In some forms, it's free. If not, it's still without insurance, still pretty cheap. The last one I was on through them without insurance was $15 a month, and that wasn't even the cheapest option that they had. Just a heads up. Throwing that out there for women who might need it.
And just so you know, both ways,
Oh, I was
Saran
muted.
wrap is really
I
cheap.
was like,
Saran wrap is very cheap. So I'm just saying, both ways. So women or guy.
Brandon says they don't have insurance. The likelihood of being able to afford a child is pretty low. And I promise you, if you're getting an abortion, you are not trying to have a kid. Whereas I wholeheartedly agree with that, I'm sorry, most of the motherfuckers out there are irresponsible as hell. I have a friend who does not want a kid, and he goes and fucks everything either way. He doesn't care. He doesn't wear protection, doesn't do anything like that. And it's a big surprise when he does, and he wants it aborted. Just
Don't
knowing
talk
that
about
you're
me
not...
on here. Damn it.
Sorry, well, I didn't mention you by name, but either way.
Bill, you're the one who outed yourself there.
Yes. But the problem with that is we are irresponsible, and we are trying to put the blame in someone else's hands. And, on something else or abortion, you have the ability to try. And there are a lot of people out there like my friend who just don't try, don't care. Like,
Do you want to
it's not
know
gonna happen.
the best way to lower abortion rates? Do you want to know?
Please tell me.
Abstinence.
No, because that's never going to happen.
It is the best way, though. Even though
It's
it'll
the
never
best
happen,
way,
it is the best way.
it's never
But
gonna
go
happen.
ahead.
It is the best way. I'm
is
just saying.
to teach
But,
sex education in schools.
I actually wanted to get on that in a moment. I want to get to Linda's question first, but I definitely wanted to get onto that because sex education is very important. And that's one of the things that leads to stuff like my friend.
But they're teaching
There's
it
a
too
lot of
early
schools.
now.
No.
Yeah.
Are you
When are they
kidding?
teaching sex ed?
I disagree,
Huh?
Bill. I'm sorry. I see posts all the time about irate parents because their school is teaching sex ed, and I have seen teachers get in trouble for doing so, to where they're not allowing it in a lot of schools. That is one thing that has been happening. They do not want to teach sex education.
They are teaching sex ed. They're talking sex to kids that are young as 8 years old. Right?
No, they're not.
And yes, they are. And listen, and what I'm going to tell you. And the thing is what they're doing is I'm in Hazel Park, honey, and I'm right in between all three schools. And they walk past my house, and the kids are 10 years old. They're holding hands, and they're sucking face and sticking their tongues down each other's throats. All right, like they don't know anything. But the thing is 8 years old. They got their beginnings of talking about sex education, and all of a sudden they're boom. It's like that. Now,
Okay, but do you know
yes,
what that sex education
hang on.
that those
So-
8-year-olds are receiving? Is it
I'll get to
talking
you, Linda, I
about
promise.
is it talking
I was
about
like-
sex, penis and vagina sex, or they start talking about the changes in your body, or they start talking
That's,
about
I think, more
puberty at
appropriate.
8 years old, or they start talking
They-
about menstruation at eight years old?
What-
I don't think they're talking about. I don't think they're showing porn in classes. They're not telling kids
Well,
to have sex.
They did
They
when I
didn't
was
show
in
me
school.
porn in class when I was in school, so if they would have, I'd still be in school. But what I'm saying is, when you're starting to
That
teach
counts.
kids too young, all right, and this is Hazel Park. I grant it. So it is what it is. It's a white trash area and stuff here down here, and it is what it is. But the thing is when you're teaching a kid, my thoughts, are you teaching a kid or even mention anything too young, and all of a sudden you got kids that are out here 9 and 10 years old, sucking face, sticking their tongue down to each other's throat, and they don't actually know who they are or what they are or what's going on,
Because they're not.
and then it
you
leads
know,
to different stuff. It's a twisted thing. So
But Bill,
This
if they're
is-
teaching sex ed at 8 years old, I promise you, I pinky promise you, that it's not actually sex ed. I
They're
think they're
teaching you about
calling
your
it
body.
sex. They're teaching you about your body. They're teaching you about puberty. They're teaching you about menstruation and that you should start wearing deodorant because you're going to start smelling bad.
And-
They're not
and,
actually teaching
you're
you
right.
about sex and contraception.
You're right.
They're not.
But you're right. Okay, so you're right. So then what goes on in the school after that is the older kids that know that you just learned about a little bit about sex ed, the older kids are telling the younger kids, this is what's going on. And this is why they're teaching this, because they just went through those levels. And they're telling the younger kids, and all kinds of stupid shit's happening in the world.
But that's
with
been
that
happening
going
our
on
whole
because-
lives, even when they did teach sex ed. I mean, it was the older kids telling
No
the
one
younger kids all
told
this
after I learned sex ed in junior high school, none of the older kids told me anything. But I mean, I was already having sex. But the thing is, what I'm saying is, these kids who are so young, like just out of elementary school and just right into junior high school, they're walking around. When I was in junior high school, I had a girlfriend, but I didn't walk around holding her hand and sucking face and sticking my tongue down her throat. That wasn't it at point in time. And everything has
Right.
changed through the years. And that is
No, and I
going to
agree.
alter
Things-
everything that we see. So,
Yeah, and things absolutely have changed. The issue is that they took sex ed out of school, and they did this a long time ago, and I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that a lot of schools have even taken out, from what I learned. I did sex ed 13, 14 years ago now. In my sex ed, they broke the boys and the girls up into two different rooms, and the only thing I learned in that room was that I need to start wearing deodorant, and then this is what a period was, and these are your options for your period,
Yeah.
and that was it. We did not learn a damn thing about sex.
And
We
I
did not
learned
learn
all
a damn
about the
thing
boys.
about contraception.
Same thing separately.
Yeah,
So,
we didn't learn
okay.
anything about contraception.
keep this in
pregnancy,
mind.
Nothing.
Because Linda's been waiting forever, and I want to get back to Brandon's comment, but keep it in mind because we'll get back to this. We can talk a little bit more about this as well. But I want to
Okay.
get to these comments because they're on here. First, I want to go to Brandon, who said nobody was putting blame on any women. Nobody's saying I'm pregnant because of the government. What we do blame, though, is when they tell women how to act after that happens. And I wasn't saying that that's what you were saying, Brandon, when I said that. I'm saying guys, though, who act like you're taking away the choice not to breed them. Well, I'm sorry, you're taking the blame away from yourself not to, because you could make that decision. Again, I agree with Lane and everybody else. It's not going to happen. People want to, but you have ways to protect yourself. And there's too many people that don't care. Why? Because a condom doesn't feel good on me, you know, and
I
stuff
don't
like
fucking
that.
give a shit.
Right. That's what I'm saying. There are options on there, whatever the reasons are. The problem is most of these people who don't try and are relying on abortions to get them out of the sticky situation. And that is, I think, where a lot of morality in this fight comes from, are people who rely on it to get them out of certain situations, which is wrong. But
It is wrong, but that's a minority of the people that are getting abortions.
I'm not talking
It's a
about the people
huge
getting
minority.
abortions. I'm talking about the guys.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually
saying that, like,
in your defense, yeah.
We talked in our show that we did about abortion. We brought up like the women that use abortion just as a form of birth control.
Yeah.
That is very few and far between. Like,
No, but guys do. A lot of guys rely on that aspect to not have to deal with it if it happens, that they can just get rid of the baby.
yeah, and I agree, and that's fucked up.
Yeah, and I do too. But that was my comment, was actually about the guys in that situation.
Yeah.
We'll use it. Linda, finally, we can get to Linda's comment. If Roe vs. Wade gets overturned, will it promote a society of handmaids for rich couples, or will it be a non-issue whether it gets overturned or not? If you Google this topic, many famous rich people come up. Does Roe vs. Wade promote this or inhibit this, or is it a non-issue, regardless of which way the law gets turned in the future? Do you want to comment on that, Elena, before I do?
I think it'll totally create a society where rich people are using handmaids. I totally agree with that.
Okay, I don't. I do think that it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to create a society of that. It didn't have a society. It wasn't like that really before. That had been mostly changed already before Roe versus Wade was ever a thing. Of course, you're going to have your old rich Christian white men, all that stuff that we were talking about before, that are going to be using stuff like that in handmaids. It's going to happen. I do think it does promote it to a point, though. I'll agree with the comment.
Yeah, I mean, have you read the book?
I have not. I've not read it.
Or like seen the show or anything? Yeah.
I've only seen a little bit of it, but yeah.
So in the book and the show is only the first season is like the book, and then after that they kind of go on about it. But basically, like right at the beginning of the book, they're talking about how they, like, the main character is talking about like, how did this happen? And she's like going through everything, and it was small changes to small change to small change to small change to small change, where all of a sudden, unless you were a rich white woman, you were nothing to society. And I know that that's a book and a show. I get that. But I don't
It was
think
based
that
on
it's
shit that
not
happened, though.
possible. Yeah, I don't think that it's not possible.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, I agree with her that it does promote it, and I agree with you that there's going to be situations where that's the case. I don't think it's obviously not going to inhibit it, but I do kind of think it's a non-issue. I don't think that's really going to be the biggest problem. I think women's rights have gone too far for that to be a problem anymore, unless
I
a woman's
hope so.
not. Yeah, like that's what I think, and I hope so as well.
Or one other thing I wanted to bring up really quick. Do you have more comments?
No, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay. One other thing I wanted to bring up about criminalizing women who do go seek abortions, whether they do it at home or they go to a different state, if their state bans it, they're talking about making these felonies. And one thing that comes along with being a felon is that you can't vote. And I think that's
I
a
thought,
big
I thought it was just giving. I thought it was just giving them
I'm a
ticket.
felon. I can vote.
I thought it was giving them a ticket, and I've been a felon for all my damn life almost, and I still vote.
Yeah, you can still vote.
Are you? I'm pretty sure most.
I've been a felon
cannot
since I
vote.
was like 24 years old, and I've been able to vote.
I assaulted two police officers in my life, and I still vote. So,
but you're right. There's certain kinds of felonies that you can no longer vote. There are certain things you can do.
Right.
Standard being a felon, I don't think that's going to be one that's going to affect that. Again, everything's hypothetical. It could. Now,
I hope.
Quickly go back to what we were talking about with the sex education, and I wanted to comment on that, is that they're not teaching sex ed in school. And this is going to go to an area that, Elena, I know you're really passionate about. But one of the reasons they don't teach sex ed too is because
of the Christians.
No, it's not. It's actually because of the diverse society we're living in, where people are offended to learn about straight relationships, where people are offended to learn about this stuff. This is something that has been being fought for a long time, where you're teaching my child about a straight relationship when my child is gay and not given the choice, or you're teaching my children about gay when they should not be educated on that because they're straight. They should not be subjected to this. I
Yep.
obviously support everybody, you know, with their right to the decision. But that's one of the things that took sex education out of schools. Is
And you beat
because
me
And
to
I
it
think
no
because
that
I
that's
was going to bring that
fucked
up. So
it is. I agree with that
Well,
100%. But what do they
Keith beat
do?
me to it because I was going to bring it up next. So yeah,
No.
it's true.
What do you think they could do, Elena, though? Because you can't, rightfully so. I don't necessarily, as much as I support trans people, you know, their decision, like I said before, I don't understand them, but I get it. So as much as I do that, I would not want my kid going into a school saying, hey, by the way, if you don't like it, we can just chop it and make you a woman. I think that's something that should come handy. It shouldn't be taught. It's not about religion, but that's not something that should be taught to kids at that age. They should learn about sex the natural way and learn about gay sex as well, between a man and a woman, or a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. They should be able to learn about that stuff because that is a choice most people make. But then it now excludes groups of people that are now causing fights for schools for teaching this stuff.
So my thoughts on this whole thing, because first of all, I do think that transgender people should be talked about in schools, because it's just transgender people are here. They're here to stay,
Yeah.
and they deserve respect just like anyone else does. I think we should be teaching that in schools. I don't think, because if you don't, because a lot of these people that are like transphobic, like against trans people, they're not, like, they're teaching their kids that transgender people don't deserve respect. And like, that's wrong. They're
Agreed.
people. So I think sex ed should cover fucking everything.
But when
It
it
should cover
does,
everything.
it created, that's what I'm saying, is I agree that it should, but it created issues. And to a point, there's validation in creating issues because there is so much now that it can almost be confusing to teach a child versus teaching somebody who's growing up. And instead of about your body and reproduction, which should be taught reproduction, and the option to have same sex. And just on that comment with same sex, Brandon says, I know a lot of gay people, none of them would be upset about their kids learning about straight people. That's not the point. The point is it takes one voice to cause an uproar. It takes one person who is upset.
All the damn time, everywhere you go.
Yeah. Like I fully think they should teach it.
Keith,
And like,
Keith
I'm not
knows.
talking
All right,
about
so
sex ed in, sorry, go ahead.
Keith knows. All right, so if the grown-up people in the area, in the world, aren't accepting it in the way that they should, then how can you teach your kids? Because Keith knows the bar I used to hang out at, and I know him from, right? They had LGBT night, all right? And it was fine. But it was always fine with the customers when it was always the girls coming in there. Because I have a lot of gay friends. And the thing is when it changed over a little bit, you know, and it kept going and you got more people in there and there was more people coming up there, then you had the, for better words, because Jane's not here and I don't know who that. So you had the guys coming in here, part of them were, I believe, were transgender women and some of them were drag. Well, when you don't have a situation where there's a men's and a women's bathroom, all right, and guys going in there in a dress and going into the men's bathroom, there's going to be a problem. And they go into the women's bathroom, there's going to be a problem, especially when there's still young kids in there during the day. And that happened at the bar. I tried to tell the bar owner, I said, if you're going to have this and you're going to keep with it and it's great for you, you need to put in another bathroom that is unisex.
Yeah.
I think all bathrooms should be unisex. If you go to someone's house and use a unisex bathroom, I don't think it fucking matters.
He dropped it all after that. And his business, what the hell? Just like, boom.
Do you want a gummy, Elena?
A gummy?
Yeah.
What do you mean a gummy?
Brandon is asking, do you want a gummy?
Oh, sure.
Okay, there we go.
They're weed gummies.
Okay. The argument was never about like the kids learning. It's about the way the parents act, which is why they can't react to it. And that's why they can't teach it, because the reaction of the parents in there. And I do believe something as far as going like being transgender or being bi or anything like that. I do believe that's something that should be discovered in a sense on your own. I don't think necessarily you need to teach the acceptance of people, but do not to teach it as an option. Yeah, but
Yeah,
not
that's
teach
what I'm
as an
saying.
option. Teach sex is what sex can be. There's 3 ways sex can go, pretty much, and that's gay, lesbian, or straight. You know, as far or animals would go bestiality and shit. But the 3 main ways they're going to learn, no matter what they choose to be, should learn those 3 ways of sex. You know, and that I think is important to teach. But because you're going to teach something about gay people or straight people or whatever, and there are cases, even based on what Brandon said, where parents have fought school districts over the fact that their child was gay and they were teaching straight sex and not appealing to the gay child. Where he says that, and that's where the topic came in that I was talking about, Brandon, was that because they feel excluded, they pull their kid out of school. They send them somewhere else. They cause a fight for it. And eventually they lead to the point where we get into this fucked up society we are now. Well, we just won't teach about it because non-education seems to be the best cure for everything lately.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
gonna
first
show in a
off want
minute.
to say,
Why don't you just tell her no once in a while just to see what happens? Because
You
she's
don't
going
want
to say something anyway.
no, that'd be
I know
worse.
she's going to say,
Yeah. We don't want to do that.
That'd be
the thing.
worse.
She's going to say something anyway, so it's all right. Just messing with you,
So
Elena.
I
I'm
first
sorry.
want to say I do think that sex ed should be taught in schools. I don't think we should be teaching 5-year-olds about sex. I think at a young age you can start introducing them about like learning about their own
Their body.
bodies. Yeah. I think a big thing that we need to start doing in society is stop giving people's genitals cutesy names. We need to stop doing that with kids. Like especially with kids, everything should be referred to as a penis, vagina, like vulva.
We got to make them
breasts,
non-taboo words.
exactly.
You know, just
It should be easy to talk about because it's natural. It's attached to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it shouldn't be weird to say the word vagina.
I agree.
Like that's like number one. And I feel like we should start implementing that with super young kids because it's not a bad word. Penis is not a bad word. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's that. I think that should start being introduced at a super young age. And then maybe at like 12, like 11, 12 is when most kids start hitting puberty, like the majority. I think that is when you should start talking about sex because once you hit puberty, especially in boys, I'm not making it like this is true, this is a fact, especially in boys, when boys hit puberty, that's when they start wanting to explore sex.
Yes.
A lot of times with young girls, they want to figure themselves out still and then go from there. So we need to start teaching that young just because that's when boys want to start putting their dick in things.
Yeah, well, we like that.
No, and
So
that's
she's
fine.
saying
You're
no
right.
more.
I
So she's
totally
saying
think
no
that-
more piranha. Boom.
No, but I think if kids at the age 11, 12 start learning about what sex is, what the consequences of sex are, STDs, pregnancy, all of that stuff, if that was nationwide taught, the abortion rates would already be down.
You're right. Sex education has a lot to do with that. And that's what, we kind of used to have that in a lot of ways. Yes, it was always geared more towards straight people because this was when I was younger. It was before the movement really started to hit where you're allowed to. But for all the parents out there, this is your fucking fault too. You got to stop being so fucking anal about this shit. What Elena said was 100% true, that trans and gay and all that, it's out there. It's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Your kids need to learn about it. Some of the things you were taught in school, your parents objected to you being taught in school. And you needed to learn about it. Sex education was frowned upon when I was getting sex education in school. Some places it was frowned upon. Some places it was important, but it's something we needed to learn. And if we can bring that back and you stop being such goddamn little bitches about it, then we can fix a lot of the problems that are happening now by making a somewhat preemptive strike against it. Because it's going to be in the future. It's not going to happen right away. Overturning things like this is not a simple solution. It's going to, just fix all your problems. And that's what they're saying.
Another thing I wanted to bring up really quick is just that like it's not just on the government and just on schools. Parents can be teaching their kids sex.
Yes.
But I feel like a lot of the times they're not because it's uncomfy.
Well,
and
for
I
the
feel like
reasons
that's really
you said,
fucked up.
is like for the reasons you said about making things just part of normality.
Right.
Making
Like
words
I
make-
never had a sit down with my parents and talked about sex ever in my entire life.
And that's
Really?
you know what?
And
the
that's
good-
weird.
I didn't.
Hang on. So you said you're in the 20s, right? Young
25.
20s.
I'm 25.
I didn't want to say that, Keith. Shut up.
I did.
So I'm 29, and but my parents never talked to me about sex. All right, and I understand that back then when I was growing up, it was different and stuff like that. But I always hope at point in time through the years and stuff like that, my parents never talked to my brother about sex. Now my parents are redneck hillbillies from Western Kentucky. It was a different thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And we lived in Hazeltucky here. So my parents never talked to me about sex. So when I was young, I banged everything that walked around. But the thing is when, like you were saying, you educate your kids about sex, it'll be a better thing.
Mm-hmm.
It may not actually cure everything, because some kids, when you talk to them about sex, they're going to go, oh yeah, well I can do that and I can do that, and they're going to go do that.
You know,
Yeah, but
this is
if
where
you give them
schools-
the tools on how to be safe, it's gonna have a lot different outcome. I feel like a lot of the reason why it's so taboo to talk up to your kids or to teach sex ed in school is based on religious beliefs. Because in most religions, you can't have sex before marriage, so everyone's just teaching abstinence only.
There's also
That
the
doesn't
fact
work.
that,
People are gonna have sex.
but when they tried to teach about this, is another thing that did happen when they tried to teach about protection and how to properly, prevent diseases, pregnancies, stuff like that, then parents felt that they were then promoting sex, promoting being able to have sex worry free and being able to do what they want. And yeah, and that was a big fight they had too. And again, it's about the parents being little bitches. And the thing you're fighting against is the thing that's going to help you from having to have that conversation with your kids, because they're still going to be educated. If they have questions, they can still come to you. You can still have the conversation if you want. But the institutions are trying to help you with that. They were trying to teach that stuff to your kids.
Or like Brandon and I
hope
talk
that-
about this all the time. Like when we have kids, like when my kids are like preteens starting to become teenagers, I want to start talking to them about sex from a very young age, like at least in my own household. Like I'm not saying as children you need to, like as teachers they need to answer all the questions kids have, because that can be uncomfortable.
But getting them on the
comes
path.
home from school, if my kid comes home from school at 7 years old and they're like, Mom, I heard someone on the bus say the word blowjob today. What's that? If they're asking about it, they're old enough to learn about it, in my opinion.
I agree.
So if my kid's asking me what's a blowjob, I'm going to explain that to them. I'm going to use I'm going to use medical terminology. I'm not going to say dick. I'm not going to say
you're not going to say
wiener.
Brandon,
I'm going to
we got to show him something.
Exactly. Like there's a way to teach a
Right, so
child that's
question.
appropriate.
Question.
We got to cut this short in a minute because I got to go to work. But go ahead.
All right. So the last 40 years, when they're teaching and they're not teaching and on and off of sex education, has it been a better thing or a bad thing? Was what's going on in life and how our populace for younger kids having children?
It's been way worse. There's
boom,
way
boom,
more
boom.
STDs. There's more STDs. There's more unwanted pregnancies.
I don't know about more STDs because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. But however,
Did you know over 75% of the population has genital herpes? Over 75% of the
Roseanne.
population has genital herpes.
I watched Roseanne,
herpes,
and she said white trash Christmas a couple times on there, but never about chlamydia. So, and none of my gay friends have ever said anything about chlamydia when I talk to them.
To answer your question, I want to say something about your question about do you think it helped. I want to go to the LGBTQATV community, whatever it is. The full
LGBTQIA+.
I is the one I forgot. Okay, there's another one?
No,
let's not go to that one. Okay, but no, especially with that community, the reason there is so much fight right now and the reason people have to battle so much is because the education of being that way was taken out of schools. Because I do believe that people would have had to fight as hard.
Why was it taken out of schools?
Because parents were little whiny bitches who complained about it.
Christian parents. Go on. Religious
Not just Christian parents. There were parents that were legit, not Christian, that were all for it, that just did it because it was promoting sex, because it was promoting this to their child. They didn't think their child was ready. even though you can blame a lot of the Christian community, I know a lot of Christians who definitely promote this stuff. And I know a lot of people that are not Christian that just don't feel it's the right age for their child to learn. They have that right to not feel that way, but not to deny 29 other kids in the classroom because your one child you don't feel should be learning about that. And that's what happened. But that's why people had to fight, because there was no buildup in their previous generation to be allowed to be who they wanted to be discovered, to have sexual education taught right, to say it's okay to be this way or anything like that. So they had to fight outside of school to be what they wanted to be. And that's what led to a lot of the revolution we're seeing now, because they're teaching so little of it. The only way they can get their word out is through protests and movements. They're not doing it the same way. She's still here with audio.
Yeah, I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'm
Okay,
listening to the whole thing, I promise.
Okay. But I'm actually going to pretty much cut it there. I know she's there, but I'm going to cut it short because I do have to go to work. And this was a good conversation. I think because this, we don't have to necessarily do our Roe v. Wade show that we were talking about previously, which is good because we just had the abortion show previously. So it's good to have that. But I want to thank everybody who's here. I want to thank everybody in the chat. Bill, thank you for being here. I did miss you. I am here. I'm glad you're here again. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow if you like what you see. We've got more shows with more topics, and anything you want to talk about, just bring it up. We'll be glad to. Current events and more, and a lot of mental health stuff usually on Wednesdays. Speaking of Wednesdays, our next topic coming this Wednesday is being mortal. I know it says May 11th. It's actually going to be May 18th. That is this Wednesday. And that will be about mortality and dealing with things and finding out things about you that make you realize that you're growing old and sorry, you're going to die. And it's something that all of us will have to entertain at some point. And it's really hard when it hits. But if you want to talk about anything else and we're not on live, feel free to. You can talk about something, talk to us about anything, anytime, just by going to earshouldervoice.com. You can also join the social network on there. Go to Meta and go to the Ear Shoulder Voice page, and you can message us if you want as well there. And we'll just talk to you about anything. It doesn't have to be live. It doesn't have to be public. We'll just talk to you because you need somebody to talk to. Sometimes we all need somebody to talk to.
You're getting ready to leave and she comes back. Yeah.
Well, she was still listening to everything.
Yeah, I heard everything.
Yep, new shows
Did
every
you hear
Sunday and
everything?
Wednesday. Thank you.
All right. So before we cut off, I have to say, Elena, your makeup looks beautiful tonight. So
Oh, thank you.
we got to watch her do her makeup before everyone heard. So yeah.
A little bit,
All
yeah.
right. So thank you, Elena, for being here. I know that this topic has been heavily on your mind since it was first mentioned, but we hadn't had the show to do it yet. And it was really hard to do another show about it because we had just done that show. We had no idea this was going to happen. But now I don't think we have to do anything. We've got a lot of opinions on the table. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being here. And we will see you all. There's not going to be an after show on this one because I do have to go to work. So thank you all for being here. You all have a great night.
So seriously, you've never been late before?
Oh, I'm already
Never been late
6
before
minutes
to
to
work?
shower and get to work. I got 6 minutes.
Yeah, we don't care. There's got to be after show. So shut up. Do after show for 5 minutes.
When you're alone and feeling down, and you're 10 feet underground, when you're so deep you're about to drown, when you're in the lost and found, 'cause heartaches only last a day.